It's a story that has grabbed international headlines for weeks now and kept the world hooked. Unfortunately, the story ended in an enormous tragedy some days ago. The death of 5 people on board a tourist submersible called Titan that was headed for the Titanic wreckage. On the 22nd of June, the human remains from Titan were located by a remote-controlled underwater search vehicle about 500 meters from the wreckage of the Titanic, roughly 370 miles off the coast of Newfoundland. The US Coast Guard believes all 5 passengers died following a catastrophic implosion. This tragedy has cast a long and dark shadow on all such ocean explorations in the foreseeable future and raised a myriad questions about the ethics of adventure tourism in general and the company involved in this incident in particular. Titan, the doomed submersible, was operated by Oceangate Expeditions. It was lost in deep sea after what authorities described, as we said, as a catastrophic implosion, killing Dubai-based British billionaire and adventurer Hamish Harding, UK-based Pakistani businessman Shehzada Dawood and his son Suleiman, French submarine operator and Titanic expert Paul-Henri Najolier, and the Oceangate CEO himself, Stockton Rush. The operator, Oceangate Expeditions, charged the passengers a whopping $250,000 each to participate in the voyage. The implosion of the Titan has raised serious questions about the safety of private undersea exploration operations. Titan's hull is believed to have collapsed as a result of enormous water pressure. The sub was built to withstand such pressure, and experts will now try and determine what exactly went wrong. Titan is believed to have been 3,500 meters below sea level when contact was lost barely 1 hour 45 minutes after the submersible vessel, was dropped into the ocean. Years before Oceangate submersible craft went missing in the Atlantic Ocean, the company faced several warnings as it prepared for its hallmark mission of taking wealthy passengers to tour the Titanic's wreckage. In January 2018, experts inside and outside the company were beginning to sound alarms. Oceangate's Director of Marine Operations, David Lockridge, started working on a report around that time, according to court documents, ultimately producing a scathing document in which he said the craft needed more testing and stressed the potential dangers to passengers of the Titan as the submersible reached extreme depths. 2 months later, Oceangate faced similarly dire calls from more than 36 people, industry leaders, deep-sea explorers and oceanographers, who warned in a letter to its chief executive, Stockton Rush, that the company's experimental approach and its decision to forego a traditional assessment could lead to potentially catastrophic problems with the Titanic mission. The extreme tourism industry is niche but growing. A swelling number of companies have emerged to facilitate dangerous adventures for the super-rich. The $250,000 a head expedition that vanished en route to the deep-sea wreck of the Titanic ocean liner is the most glaring and alarming example of extreme tourism that is becoming somewhat commonplace for those who can afford it. A 3-way competition between billionaire entrepreneurs Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk and Richard Branson has spurred the development of a nascent space tourism industry. Branson's Virgin Galactic Holdings has a reported backlog of 800 customers for the roughly 9-minute up and back flights to space, most of whom have paid between $250,000 and $400,000 for their tickets. But let's remember, this kind of tourism inherently involves significant risks. Oceangate began offering trips aboard Titan to the site of the Titanic wreckage in 2021. However, safety concerns were raised, as we mentioned, as early as 2018 during Titan's quality control stage, including questions about the 6.7-meter vessel's experimental carbon fiber hull structure and lack of industry certification. Past passengers have shared details of problems with communication, navigation and buoyancy during their 12-hour round trip to the Titanic. With such extreme adventures, the work of operators is naturally risky. Seattle-based mountaineer Garrett Madison offers bespoke expeditions to unclimbed Himalayan peaks through his company. He says the average Everest death rate is 1%, a figure higher than for US service members in recent conflicts. It's the exhilaration of being on the mountain and coming face to face with danger that's so attractive, he says. Since the COVID pandemic, Madison has noticed an uptick in high net worth individuals booking out entire expeditions. He says it's the latest trend. Billionaires wanting their own private adventure with friends. They fly to Antarctica in a private jet. It's next level. With these extreme tourism companies, safety generally comes with a high price tag. Richard Garriott, president of the Explorers Club, says while we should all appreciate efforts to innovate in order to push the boundaries of exploration, this must be done safely and sensibly. This club is a professional group devoted to studying scientific exploration, including divers Paul-Henri Nagiot of France and adventurer Hamish Harding of Britain among its members. Both these men perished in the Titan submersible's implosion. The critical aspect is ensuring the safety of the passengers. Without appropriate controls and regulations, the potential for accidents, injuries, or even fatalities increases significantly. This isn't the first time that an incident like this has caused controversy. Amazon boss Jeff Bezos, who's also a member of the Explorers Club, flew himself and 3 other people into space in 2021, while the firm was under criticism for warehouse working conditions and attempts to discredit unions that were seeking to fight for higher pay. Grace Lorden, associate professor in behavioral science at the London School of Economics, says these dangerous expeditions have superseded luxury items for thrill-seeking entrepreneurs. He explains that pleasure and purpose tend to determine happiness, and it used to be about material purchases and philanthropy. Earlier, over time, redistributing wealth still provides purpose, but pleasure is harder to attain. Ego is another factor, says Lorden. Luxury products are more easily available to the masses now, and we all want better dinner party anecdotes. So entrepreneurs who tend to have a higher tolerance for risk are increasingly desiring experiences that very few others have had, he says. These throwback explorations, like climbing a mountain or crossing the ocean, are also a way for billionaires, many of whom have accumulated their wealth through digital transactions, to experience their physical limits in the face of mortal danger. And there is another extreme tourism adventure on the cards. A trip to the moon is being planned by Japan's Yasaku Maezawa, founder of online apparel retailer Zozo. According to reports, the trip includes a handpicked crew of artists, performers, and professional athletes. The voyage may make a week-long lunar trip in 2024 aboard a SpaceX Starship. But we're asking today on this show, how dangerous is extreme tourism?
We arrived on site
Hanji.
less than 24 hours later. 0430 local meeting times, the Horizon Arctic, integrated into the ongoing and multinational rescue effort. At that point, within an hour, 0530, our system was launched from the back deck and began to descend to the seafloor. Shortly after arriving on the seafloor, we discovered the debris of the Titan submersible. We continued to document the site, and by 12 o'clock, sadly, a rescue turned into a recovery. I have to apologize, we're still demobilized. A lot of emotions, people are tired. During this period, upon arriving on site, we have to point out that the U.S. Coast Guard Incident Command reached out to the families of the Titan crew upon our discovery of the debris. A very important communication.
Commander Ashok Bijalwan, if I could start with you. Like I said at the start of my show, this is a story that grabbed international headlines. Firstly, let's just focus on the Titan submersible. What, according to you, sir, went so horribly wrong with this submersible? You know, the irony is that it ended up pretty much the way the Titanic did. In this case, there were no survivors. All 5 on board were killed, presumably in that implosion. What do you think went wrong, sir?
You see, from the timelines of the communication that are available between the mothership and Titan, what I can make out that Titan went down at a very high speed, means the rate of descent was too high. Within minutes, it was at 3,000 meters, and it gave a message that going down to the sea floor. And after that, the communication was lost. So when you are dealing with such high pressures, with such high risk, so you need to be very careful, especially when you're going down, and you need to check your ballast. You need to check your buoyancy, that you have, you can, and the rate of descent, especially at the towards the end when you are nearing the sea floor. You have to be very, very careful. Like I have done bottoming for submarines as a navigator, and also while planning the operations, we go into so much of nitty gritty. Like the ballast that you take in, the water that you take in is so calculated in such a calculated manner, because after all, the lives of people on board is at stake. And also when we are operating submarines, the state, the assets, the asset that has been entrusted to us by the government. So my understanding is that the Titan went down too fast, and as it neared the sea bottom, it was unable to arrest its rate of descent, and it went and hit the sea floor, and because of the momentum and the pressure of the seawater outside, it just imploded.
All right, NP Singh, let me ask you a couple of questions. As I mentioned earlier, this company, Oceangate Expeditions, had received multiple warnings about Titan. And this actually goes all the way back to 2018, where experts both within the company and outside had begun to sound alarms. And even recently, many from the industry, deep sea explorers, oceanographers, had in fact written a letter to the chief executive, Stockton Rush, who happened to be one of the passengers and lost his life as well. In that letter, they had warned that the company's experimental approach and its decision to forego a traditional assessment could lead to potentially catastrophic problems with the mission. In the end, what happened was indeed catastrophic. Unfortunately, these words proved to be prophetic. My question to you is, where do you think the company went so horribly wrong? What are some of the warnings that it did not pay heed to? And also in the end, when we know that there was an almost global effort made to rescue the 5 passengers, why did it become virtually impossible to save these 5 people?
See, it was so unfortunate from that Sunday onwards when it went down. See, why the navies, I will talk about the Indian Navy as the captain has spoken. See, we are so much SOP driven. And why these such mishappenings, such accidents, horrible accidents, loss of life? Because whatever warning was given, that is never taken seriously. And where is the accountability for this? The issue is from 2018 onwards, there have been warning that such thing could happen, and it has happened. Until then, you see what SOP they have followed, what speed they have gone through, what was the momentum, what was the pressure, can it withstand? See, all of a sudden, sometimes if you go slow, why SOP is must? Because in defense, why our armed forces are so professional, you must have not seen even one accident, and our submarines are always, most of the time they are underwater. But because we go strictly as per the SOP, if time taken from the surface to reaching that pressure level, if it needs to be gradual, it has to be gradual with the same speed. But here what they have done, within no time, you see, the moment it went down, within 1 hour, it has lost the contact with the base station. So when you go out of SOP, when you do not follow the rules and regulations, and as far as the search and rescue is concerned, I can tell you, we have seen the sea, what is sea? When you go in the sea, you will see that in whole world, let it be, I've been in Virat, the largest ship at that time, Indian aircraft carrier. And when we are in the sea, we find that we are just nothing. Where we have 15, 20 aircrafts, we have 1,500 manpower, we have 1,234 airtight, watertight compartments, we have fuel, food, rations for so many people. Even then, we feel ourselves that this ship identity is nothing, not like even a mole. So when you go in the deep, there has been in the past, you must have seen when you rescue something at that level, so it is not going to be easy. From the day one, from the Monday onwards, we were tracking, we were there on the various channels discussing this issue. So they were asking what is the probability. I said if the probability, it is very unfortunate, but as for the, by Thursday, if they are not there, the probability of getting alive them is not that easy, because at that depth, the pressure, you send any type of support system to them, it's not going to easily reach there. And by the time, see, as far as the structure of this submarine, this is known as the submersible, Titanic submersible. And in this changing world, a lot of people are taking adventurous sports. But I am telling you, the safety has to be first, be it space or be it underground in the sea. So there is
Absolutely. Safety
Yeah.
cannot be compromised. You can look for an adrenaline rush all you want. You may have millions and billions to spend seeking that rush. But at the end of the day, the companies that are offering these, so-called adventures, they need to have some kind of accountability. In this case, of course, the CEO of the company himself died. And you're quite right that, the ocean can be so humbling. Did the people involved in this expedition forget that? Let me now go across to Commander Rajiv Sardana. Commander Sardana, this is really a story that has captured the imagination of the entire world. Like I said, it's so unfortunate that it ended in such a massive tragedy. But for the benefit of our viewers, if you could just explain to us, how does such an implosion occur? We believe that this vessel, Titan, it imploded. What happens when a vessel of this nature implodes? And also, like I asked NP Singh, why did it become virtually impossible in the end for these 5 passengers to be saved?
I'll answer your question first one, that why did it, what is the process of an implosion? When the pressure of the water exceeds the pressure that the hull can withstand, so that is the time it implodes like a, crushing like an egg. It is not bursting outward, it gets crushed like an egg when it goes beyond a certain depth. So that is what has happened here. Though it might have been designed to go down even further, there have been failures in it in the integrity of the pressure. That is why it just got crushed like an egg. That is first part. Second part is that one is submarine rescue is something which is virtually impossible beyond, say, 100 or 200 meters. Even our nuclear submarines go up to 600 meters. This kind of depth, it is an impossible scenario to rescue anybody alive. So these people knew what they were getting into, and this was an experimental submarine, a submersible, which had just survived for so long. It was a disaster waiting to happen previously also, and I am sure there will be more regulations in place, and the navies of the world and the shippings of the world will put a stop to this kind of extreme adventurism which is going on. And I myself, who run an adventure company, a diving company, now the first thing is safety of the passengers. If you're charging somebody something, you are responsible for his life. So that is where the biggest drawback in this adventure is there, that you make them write a waiver.
$250,000 per person,
Yes.
$250,000. And frankly, at the end of the day, whether it's $250,000 or $50 or $5, it is human life that we are talking about. These companies ought to be held accountable. And fact of the matter is that they ignored repeated warnings going all the way back to 2018. But Commander Sardana, I want to ask you this question. You mentioned you run a diving agency. Is there a certification agency that is responsible for clearing the safety of such vessels?
Ma'am, we run scuba diving activities where individuals go down up to 30 meters diving, recreational diving. So for every dive, you're responsible for the person you're taking along. Here, when you are taking somebody such a deep, to such great depths, which is unfathomable and should not be encouraged at all, because, and there has to be some certification. This vessel was not certified by any shipping agency, by any navy. So you're basically playing with the lives of the people that you've taken along, and they've been and they paid not by but the money they have lost. They're paid with their lives.
You're quite right. And not just those other multi-millionaires, or shall I say billionaires, who were on board this vessel, but the CEO himself. And, I hate to ask this question, but did he really become a victim of his own hubris? And did the others also pay a price for that?